Hey, it's Kat, and I'm back because, well, we're not doing anything fantastical here. What I really wanted to do was just reach out for a moment to those who've been religiously or regularly, maybe, watching the videos that I've been putting out and say thank you. Because, really, I just started this video YouTube thing about the Game of Thrones because I was really interested in the history and mythology that was behind the story of A Song of Ice and Fire or the Game of Thrones. And I saw other people talking about it, and there were just some gaps. I thought, well, there's some gaps that could be filled in or could be expanded on that might be really interesting to other folks, but largely for myself, just to say it. And I had no idea if anybody else would watch it. So the idea that there's some folks out there who are interested in history and mythology and how it plays out in our story is really sort of gratifying. And I really just wanted to say thank you to those folks. And then if there's anybody else who's catching this video right this second, thank you. Even if you just tripped over it and click on it for about 2 seconds and click on any of the other content and rolled through it, and even those who've occasionally hit the thumbs down button. It just reminds me to make sure that when I'm presenting some information that I present it in such a way that it makes it a little more clear for everybody. So in either event, thank you again. The other thing I wanted to say is I feel like a lot of times I'm talking at you instead of to you. And I know this isn't exactly like a 100% a medium for conversations. I'm sure there's some other chat rooms or something like that, or forums where that could go on. But what I wanted to say is if there's something that I've missed or something that I've talked about in the past that I've glanced over, or maybe I mentioned I might get to it and I haven't got to it yet, and you're interested in going over some more of that history or mythology, just do me a favor and drop a comment down below. I guess this is my first offering of some guaranteed content. So if there's something you'd like to see, I'm going to work it into the schedule. One of the things that I was wanting to talk about, and I really had to go back and read again, was Arthurian legend because it's so all over this story. And it's presented so many ways, so many times, over so many people, that you have to go and look. You have to really go back and read the stories because I haven't read Arthurian legend for, I don't know, probably 15 or 20 years. And I know a lot about it, but I know a lot more about real life medieval history than I remember about the Arthurian legends. I remember just enough to be dangerous. But it's so fantastic because, of course, in this time period where we're looking at the War of the Roses and this end of this late medieval period is what it's referred to before the Renaissance, is that the Arthurian legends were experiencing one of its major revivals that it wouldn't see again for probably a number of years. Like I think it was about 200 or 300 more years before the Victorians picked it up and started rolling with it again. But it was so important in that time period because it experienced a revival, and then it was all over the War of the Roses. And it actually had some real physical impact on how that story went. So reading the Arthurian legends and looking at how Mr. Martin has woven it into a story is going to be super important. But of course, we do have like a year until the next season starts up. So we do have some time. I hope it gives me a little time to read and get up to date on the hundreds of Arthurian legends that are out there, but mainly the Merlin Vulgate cycles and the Welsh Merlin cycles, which are what Mr. Martin's been using. But we're going to get to that, and in the meantime, the things that I do know about is what I'm going to be filling in for our content. But if you'd like me to get to that sooner, just yell, and I'll mention some. I'll put a couple of the different ones out that I have sort of put together. And one of the ones is that I want to talk about. It's actually a little food for thought as we're going along. Is Do you know that Arthur has actually 3 swords in legend? It's so cool because I'm trying to figure out how Mr. Martin is going to play this out, if he's actually playing it out, and I think he is. I think he is. So while everybody's looking for this one extra special sword that Jon Snow is supposed to wield as maybe the prince that was promised or whatever, I'm reading the Arthurian Legends. It's like he's got 3 swords. So the 3 swords of Arthur are the sword that he receives from Sir Ector. So Arthur is being raised by Sir Ector, and he's being trained. He's a squire. He's being trained to be a knight, and Sir Ector gives him his first sword, which I thought was kind of like Sir Jorah Mormont, who's the knight's commander. Then the second sword is the one he draws out of the stone, and in some legends it's Excalibur, but I don't know if you know that in Welsh mythology for Arthur, that's not Excalibur. He just pulls a sword out of the stone and it makes him a king, but the sword really isn't usable in those stories. And then there's the third sword that he gets is the sword that he receives from the Lady in the Lake, and that's Excalibur. So I wonder if Jon Snow is going to get 3 swords. And if he's gotten the one from Sir Jorah Mormont, is he going to go down into the Winterfell crypts and find a sword, pull a sword out of the stone, per se, out of one of the crypts? And is there a third sword? Like there's that cold pond that was under that were tree that Ned Stark was always sitting under and cleaning his sword. And that there's some speculation amongst fandom about whether this is an old puddle of ice dragon that was melted, which is a cool theory. I think that's pretty interesting. Maybe it actually has ice, the Stark family sword from eons ago. So, and the sword in the crypt, if he's going to pull a sword from the stone, is that like Dawn, the sword Dawn? Maybe Ned actually brought it back. It didn't end up leaving it at Starfell. Or is it one of the Targaryen swords? Maybe like Blackfire or something like that? I don't know. But those are just thoughts that are rolling around in my head. And then is the sword ice in that pond? Or are we talking about he gets ice out of the pond and then they end up going down to Starfall? Because we talked about it culminates at Starfall. Is that where Dawn is? And then he pulls that out of the Pelstone Tower. There's so many ways that Mr. Martin could go with that. But see, there's a deal about Arthurian legend. And there's so many things to talk about. And we're going to get to that, I swear, I promise, but I have to go back and read and reacquaint myself with these ideas while I'm looking at the books. But, there's some food for thought. I just wanted to say thank you again. I apologize if this is kind of rambling. I just wanted to throw something out there. I hope that if you're interested in a topic, let me know. I will be happy to go and put together the history that goes along with that, or go further into detail. I'm sure I'm detailing enough for some folks. All right, guys, have a good one. I hope you hit the comments down below, and I'll talk to you later.